Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the EIT Digital Strategic Venture Workshop today. I'm now going to hand over Morgan, who will start the presentation.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Tessa. Good morning, everybody. My name is Morgan Gillis. I'm the director for EIT Digital's Western Europe region, which is hosting today's Strategic Venture Workshop. I'd like to warmly welcome you all to this online event. It's great that we have a large audience today, which is drawn from all parts of Western Europe and indeed further afield. We have people from Scandinavia, from Asia, and I think one or two from North America as well. So that's fantastic. I know also that some of you are already familiar with EIT Digital and have perhaps participated in some of our programs before, and also that some of you will be hearing about us for the first time this morning. This is all fine. We've set up a fast-paced agenda, which I'm sure is going to work very well for everybody. What you do all have in common is an interest in securing the right funding and ecosystem support to accelerate the growth of digital deep tech ventures, which you are involved in either as founders or executives or investors or just as more general stakeholders. EIT Digital has created the largest Europe-wide digital ecosystem, and our Open Innovation Factory and Access to Finance programs, which you'll learn more about today, are aimed directly at startups and scale-ups, which are ready to move to the next level in 2024. The Open Innovation Factory, first of all, is for established startups which are ready for seed funding in the first half of 2024 at up to 400,000 euros, specifically to intensify customer and revenue development. And secondly, the Access to Finance program is for scale-ups ready to take on venture capital funding at late seed through to Series A plus level in 2024 to unlock international expansion. And here, the typical level of fundraising is between 5 and 25 million euros. So if your company is at one of these stages, we're ready to work with you immediately. And in the upcoming slides, we'll share a couple of links with you, which you can use to make contact with us right after the event to set up a one-to-one discussion, and we'll move forward with you from there. And in fact, for the Open Innovation Factory, we're now in a specific window of opportunity for funding. And so if this program looks right for you, we'd like to hear from you right away after the event and no later than Monday, if possible. So let's take a look at the agenda. We'll move to Victoria Hoffman to begin with. Victoria is an ecosystem lead for Western Europe based in Berlin. And Victoria is going to provide you with a high-level overview of EIT Digital across all of the programs. Victoria will then hand to Martin Beaton, also an ecosystem lead, this time based in Scotland. And Martin will drill into the Open Innovation Factory in more detail to explain exactly how it works. And Martin will explain specifically how to follow up with us after this event to take advantage of the window of opportunity, which I mentioned. After Martin, we'll go to Access to Finance. This is for late seed through Series A, as I said. And here, Ben McClure, who is based in London, will explain how this program works and explain how you can jump on board in order to work with us for fundraising in 2024. We'll then go to an open Q&A session. We've allocated about 10 minutes for Q&A. Tessa Holcomb, who is also an ecosystem lead for Western Europe, will manage the Q&A section. And I would say at this point, if you have questions, please just route them to us as they occur to you through the Teams chat channel. We like to respond to a lot of those immediately back through the chat channel, and some of the others we keep for the open Q&A section. So just pop questions at us as soon as they occur to you. And then at the end, I'll come back and do a wrap up and just recap on the next steps. So that's it. I hope this is immensely useful and enjoyable for all of you. And what I'll do now is hand across to Victoria Hoffman for the overview of EIT Digital. Victoria, let me bring you in here.
That's great. Many thanks, Morgan. I'd also like to say good morning and very warm welcome to our strategic venture workshop. I'm based in Berlin. I'm ecosystem lead with focus on DACH and France, and I'm happy to give you the overview now. Our goal in the next hour or so is to provide you with a good overview of EIT Digital's Open Innovation Factory and our growth services, which work together to enable the funding and development of digital deep tech ventures from pre-seed all the way to Series A and beyond. Probably some of you hear about EIT Digital for the first time this morning. I would also like to emphasize in the beginning that we are a very open and approachable organization. And after giving you this very high level overview of our startup and scale up support mechanisms, we're keen to have individual discussions with you after today's event for our programs. So do reach out and approach us. You will receive the contact details in the end of this presentation. Next slide, please. Just in terms of what we are the preeminent pan-European platform for digital deep tech ventures. As you may have gathered, we belong to the EIT, which is the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, a EU body, and we are one of the KICs with focus on digital deep tech, which is software-based, but not limited to. We were formed almost 13 years ago. We operate across Europe with 21 locations, including one in Silicon Valley. And we have an international ecosystem with more than 350 corporate partners, 60 universities, 600 startups, research institute, governmental organizations, and we have the largest pan-European investor network consisting of more than 1,000 investors that we know personally and where we can make warm introductions. We have an access to finance team, which is constantly exchanging deal flow with VCs, corporate VCs, family offices, and that ecosystem that covers the different stakeholders as a big part of the value add that we bring to you. Next slide, please. We can explain fairly quickly what we do by looking at the graph, which explains our unique end-to-end approach, which deploys private and public capital and major international ecosystem to support the drive and growth for digital deep tech ventures from incubation, as you can see down on the left, through acceleration, and then into growth across international markets. And there's really no other organizational platform in Europe which sequentially targets public and private finance, which have been proven to work most effectively, and which wrap the whole thing in a rich ecosystem, which also delivers access to industry, meaning customers, channels to market, and to talent and technology at the right time to allow founders to move ahead and to achieve their sequential goals. Next slide, please. So we can basically map the main EIT digital programs onto the curve, and on the left side, on the bottom, you see our venture program. And this one delivers initial public funding in exchange of a modest level of ordinary equity to newly incorporated ventures. And these ones are primarily located within the emerging countries in Eastern and Southern Europe. And then in the center of is the Open Innovation Factory that delivers public capital as seed funding of up to 400,000 euros per venture to incorporated startups that are already have some commercial traction to enable them to move into a period of accelerated customer and revenue development across a highly intensive period of 6 months. We have 2 cutoffs for this program, and for the previous cutoff, where the application period was earlier this year, we received a record amount of applications throughout Europe, which we anticipate to happen this year or this time again. And my colleague Martin Beaton, who's also an ecosystem lead for Scotland, will explain the program in more detail in a second. And then if you look up to the right on the curve, you see the access to finance services. And these facilitate the deployment of private capital for growth funding from our long-established network of venture capital firms from across the major investment hubs across Europe, including, for example, Paris, Berlin, London, Stockholm, Madrid, and so on. Ben McClure from the Access to Finance team will give you more information on that one towards the end of this presentation. And there will also be a contact slide towards the end. So do not hesitate to contact Ben directly if you are looking to raise between 5 to 25 million euros in the future. And this is the guidance range. If you are a great company and you're raising below this number, we still want to talk to you, of course. So the approach of this workshop is the Open Innovation Factory and the Access to Finance service that are the most relevant programs for startups and scale-ups that are located in the West region. Let's move on to the next slide. All of the kicks are embedded in the knowledge triangle, and the knowledge triangle links education with business. It brings talent to the economy and accelerates the growth. We have our own professional school, master school, summer school, where we partner up with leading universities in Europe to train talent in more tech-specific areas and breed the next generation of deep tech talent. And as your venture is growing, the access to this talent might be beneficial. And the reason why we run these programs in parallel is that for any growth, you need the right people that can use and help develop emerging technology while also understanding how business works. Next slide, please. I touched on our international ecosystem, and I'd like to flesh this out a little bit more for you because it's a centerpiece of the added value which we bring to the ventures that we support and the investors we work together. It's a very big ecosystem. It has been 13 years in the making, consisting of corporations, which could serve as your potential customers, universities, which are providing talent into the ecosystem and help with the development of your product, and also a broad spectrum of tech providers of all sizes, which are helpful for startups and scale-ups in all growth phases. Next slide, please. Let me pull everything together by describing the core proposition of EIT Digital. We act as a unique added value funding platform for startups, brand new startups, established startups, all the way through scale-ups right across Europe by delivering incubation, acceleration, and growth services, which don't exist in the same combination elsewhere. The key element of this proposition is the international network, and on top you'll receive European Union product validation, which proves that your product can cover the whole European market instead serving only one specific region, which is quite helpful for follow-up fundraising, for example. Let's quickly have a look on data. We have by now more than 200 startups in our portfolio, where we invested in more than 1.3 billion have been raised by our supported scale-ups. We also participate in other European calls, including Horizon Europe, and won also a significant amount of funding there. And we bred more than 3,000 deep tech talents through our own master schools. That's from my side. So Morgan, let me hand to you here.
Great, thanks so much, Victoria, for that overview of what we do. I hope that's positioned everything for you very nicely. And now we're going to go program by program, Innovation Factory first, and then across to access to finance. So let me here introduce you to Martin Beaton, who is based in Scotland. And Martin will take us through the Open Innovation Factory in a bit more detail, explain how it works practically, and to explain, most importantly, how you can jump in and get involved straight away. So Martin, over to you.
Thank you, Morgan, and hi, everybody who's on this call from I would say a rather blustery Scotland this morning. Usually I like to say sunny Scotland, but it's definitely blustery today. So as Morgan said, I'm going to introduce you to the Open Innovation Factory 2023, and specifically the second cutoff that will close on the 13th of November. Please note that the information that I'm going to present here will support your, or is to support your participation in the 2023 programme, but you should refer to the published official programme guides for more detailed and up-to-date and final information. So this includes the call document, the call to cutoff document, and the EIT Digital Innovation Strategy. And all of that can be found on the specific website for the Open Innovation Factory at EIT Digital. So as you can see from the slide, ultimately, and in summary, the Open Innovation Factory will provide up to 400,000 euros of EIT funding to commercialise an innovation over a 6-month period. So this is really an acceleration of the commercialisation over a 6-month period. But before I get into all the details of that, what I want to do is really kick off with a couple of examples to give you a bit of a context and a feel of what it is we're going to be talking about. So if we could have the next slide. Yeah, so I'm going to introduce you to a couple of successful applications from previous but recent Innovation Factory rounds. Both of these examples have really clear deep tech heritage, and interestingly, both of them have actually have aspects of AI within them, but that's not a prerequisite at all. It's just interesting that both of these do have AI. So the first one is Joy Limited. So this is an Irish all-female led venture founded in Ireland in 2019. Now, they submitted under our digital wellbeing focus theme, and they were successful in receiving over €300,000 for their proposal to accelerate the commercialisation of their technology. That funding really came at a really important time for them, and it really got them through to the next stage where they are now, which is really starting to pick up pace. So their technology is actually really pretty exciting, pretty groundbreaking. It represents a brand new way of accurately measuring menstruation cycle variables, which also, and in fact was the original idea behind it, results in a major advance in the diagnosis time of endometriosis, which is a highly debilitating condition for many people across the world. The assessors praised the activity for addressing this serious health issue, but also noted that it had a large underlying scope and a very large associated market. Societal and economic impacts are clearly understandable from their application, as you can imagine, and they also scored highly for partnering with a highly relevant technology partner and had company funding in place to support the co-funding requirements and, in fact, beyond the end of the EIT digital intervention. So a really fantastic application, and we continue to work with this company, supporting them going forward. They get involved in some of our presentations, for example. There's lots that we can and do with Joy Limited on an ongoing basis. The next company, I should actually mention, sorry, on Joy Care that the EIT Digital West team, so us, we supported the proposal writing process. We connected the organisation with their Finnish technology partner, and as I say, continue to support the company going forward. So Agenda Matrix, so moving across to mainland Europe now from Ireland. This second example is a Belgian-based venture which was founded in 2020 with an expertise in AI, digitalisation, large data, food science, and open source. The organisation at application had existing pre-seed funding which supported their proposal. So this company used AI and sensory software to digitise the measurement of taste and smell in food. Now, if you think about that for a second, they've created technology to accurately and reproducibly taste and smell food. So as you can imagine, the applications for this technology reach well beyond food, which is a huge market in itself. So, for example, I'm talking to here from Scotland. We have a multi-billion euro industry in whisky, which you may have heard about. It requires whisky blenders at incredible expense to ensure consistency across bottles. So, for example, I imagine that technology could be extended into there. I'm sure you can imagine there's other situations, for example, with allergies, drugs, methane detection, etc. These are just ideas from me. I'm not saying that's what the company is going to do, but the point is it's a really scalable innovation, and that, from the assessor's perspective, really strengthened the application. So this company were successful in the 2022 Innovation Factory. They submitted under the digital industry focus area, which will make sense in a second, and EIT Digital supported their partnership with the University of Helsinki, who provide data analytics capabilities to the company. So that's a nice little partnership, which really accelerated that 6-month commercialization process. So that's two fantastic examples from recent cutoffs. There are actually many more that I would love to talk about if time allowed. However, we really must move on. And what I'm going to do is introduce the Open Innovation Factory itself. But hopefully that's whetted your appetite and given you a bit of context. So I mentioned the strategic focus areas a second ago. We have 5 strategic focus areas, which you'll see from our innovation strategy. The proposals that you submit must align with at least one of these focus areas. Sometimes it's hard, they sit in between. We encourage conversations with us if you're not exactly sure where they sit. But as you can see, the breadth is wide. It includes cities, industry, wellbeing, tech, and finance, all digital, of course. So it has to be deep tech within these strategic focus areas. Within these areas, you'll see a little caveat. We are currently particularly encouraging proposals that implement AI, cybersecurity, and/or quantum technologies. These are really hot topics for the EU in general, but that does not preclude other applications from more general strategic focus areas as mentioned. It's just we wanted to note that's something that is of particular interest, but it's certainly not a deal breaker if you have really interesting deep tech innovation within one of the other digital focus areas. Moving on to preferred venture attributes. So if you're on this call thinking, is this for me? Well, probably the first test to put yourself through is, do you meet these three highly preferred attributes? So you'll probably already have at least one established B2B customer. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're in profit, but it does mean that you have a customer that you're working with that's showing some traction for your product. Maybe some it will help to convince or reassure the assessors that you have you are meeting a market need. You'll have had some prior private investment into the company, or you'll be having serious discussions with investors for a round completing later in 2023 or 2024. And your organisation will be post-revenue, meaning you'll have some documentary evidence of existing sales by the time of application, November the 13th. Moving on, so the consortium. So Open Innovation Factory proposals require at least 2 participating organisations from 2 or more EU member states or associated countries. You are one of these participating organisations, so we're talking about one other or more organisation applying at the same time as you from another EU country. So your consortium partner that you select will bring essential ingredients to accelerate your activity. For example, and if you think back to the 2 examples I shared at the start, they might take the form of a technology partner. It could be a pilot customer, or perhaps it's an academic partner, or some other organisation that you will be able to build into the narrative of your application to show that they will help to meet your acceleration timetable over that 6-month period. Usually small groupings of 2 or 3 parties, sorry, Jessica, 2 or 3 parties work best with this programme. So if you're putting together your consortium, our advice is to really keep it simple. 2 eligible partners, you plus 1 other, will be absolutely fine for this call. Remember, this is a 6-month programme. The funding is not, we're not talking about millions here, we're talking about 6-month programme, really tight, really fast, really intense. So to look at that 6 month, sorry, just look at perhaps 1 or at most 2 other partners. And don't be worried at all about the consortium approach. It's really normal if you've had any involvement with any EU funding in the past. This is not a joint venture, it's just a group of companies that are getting together to support the commercialisation of your product. So in our experience, adding funding with the right partners gives the best possible chance of commercial success. Financials, Jessica, the next one, Jessica, thank you. So from a financial perspective, the Innovation Factory will provide up to €400,000, and this will comprise of up to 50% of the overall activity budget. The other 50% component of the budget is co-funding. So this is going to come from the consortium partners, so you and your partners. This is not usually cash. It's almost always in the form of effort from the parties which make up the consortium. Financial co-investment, so cash co-investment, though, is welcome and can indicate an underlying resilience in the company and therefore strengthen the proposal if you're in a situation to offer this. But as I say, it's not mandatory. A lot of organisations apply from a sweat equity perspective, not cash itself. Moving on, so one other point I was just going to say actually on there is if you go through the call documents, you'll note that while 50% co-funding is required, it is the minimum. So if you were in a position to offer more than 50% co-funding, that would be taken into consideration positively with your application as well, but 50% is the minimum. So EIT Digital provides this funding in respect to the, equity should be offered in consideration of the ecosystem support that EIT Digital provides. So this is up to you as an organisation to propose. It should be somewhere between 5 and 15%, depending on the maturity of your venture. The equity offer that you make will will be one of the many variables taken into consideration when a proposal is evaluated, and so we encourage you to consider that figure carefully. If you're looking to come up with a fair figure, you're probably going to look at valuations that your companies already have, or base it on sales that you're making. So something that you can describe to the assessors which makes sense in the context of your overall proposal. And we talked about having investors involved as well, and this is a non-mandatory but recommended attribute of a good proposal. There's 3 types of investor model, as you can see on this slide, and all will serve as a strong independent endorsement of your innovation to the assessors. And this might sound complicated with the 3 different options there, but actually in reality it's very straightforward. So the first one is prior investment, and this is simply a letter which outlines and confirms any prior investment that's been brought into the venture, and we will provide the templates for these letters. Planned investment details any concrete and evidenced intentions by third-party private investors to invest a specified sum into the venture in 2024 or later in 2023. And co-investment, the final one, this is a route for ventures that are on track to close an investment over the next 12 months or so. In this scenario, a specific number of shares would be set aside for allocation to EIT Digital for when the round closes. Now that one's a little bit more complex. Most of the applications we have fit quite neatly into the first and or second options there. If you're looking at the third one, then it would make sense to have an early conversation with us. Ultimately, if you're looking to make an application, we recommend, and you're looking at including investment information, have a conversation with us at an early stage, just to make sure that you're asking the right questions, getting the right information back from your investors, etc. Next slide. Eligibility. So all of the eligibility criteria, I've kind of summarized it here, is within the call documents that I mentioned, particularly the cutoff 2 document. But I'll quickly go through these ones with you anyway. So we're looking for, I guess, relatively young organizations. So these are ventures that are incorporated between the 1st of January 2019 and the submission date. The proposal has to contain at least 2 partners, as I've already said, and comprise of at least 2 EU or associated countries. The applicants have to be incorporated in an EU member state or an associated country, and the proposal requests a maximum of 400,000 euros of EIT funding. The activity partner's own contribution, the co-funding part, must be at least 50% of the total activity budget. But as I said, if you're able to offer more than 50% co-funding, that can be viewed as positively. Most applications, though, do look around about that 50% mark. The venture cannot be a subsidiary of another company or controlled by another company. So the applicant organization with the innovation has to be a company that has the IP lodged within it, and that's in fact the final point there. The venture to be boosted must have outright ownership of a substantial majority of the IP of the product to which the proposal applies. So we're not looking for shell companies, etc. It has to be your main company that's making the application. Next slide, please. So the key benefits of the Open Innovation Factory. Firstly, EIT Digital is a large pan-European ecosystem of corporates, innovators and academics, as Victoria's mentioned, and therefore for you as an organisation, becoming part of that ecosystem opens doors to channels to market, technologies, research and talent. All of that comes essentially for as part and parcel of getting involved with a well-known and brand name like EIT Digital. The provided funding fills a key gap for your organisation at the end of, I guess, really early stage funding and more substantial commercial funding, which is an important part in an organisation's development, this commercialisation phase that we've identified. And it brings together the essential ingredients and the European market, which will accelerate your organisation's chances of success. The EIT Digital West team, many of whom you're seeing here, provide proactive and constant support through all phases from application to execution. So we're not just going to do this event here and then disappear off. We're going to support you all the way through to the final submission in November. For example, we support in the writing process through iterative feedback. We do workshops, we do one-to-ones, and we do this very dynamically. So depending on the needs of the organisations and the cohort that's going through, aiming for this cutoff, we will adapt the process to support you best. We also provide tailored support to help you find European partners if necessary. If you're sitting there with a great innovation and you're thinking, oh, I don't know who I would, I know lots of organisations in my own country, but I don't necessarily know who I would work with in another EU country to form a strong consortium, we can help with that process as well. In fact, we're very well set up to do that. And we're also at hand to provide proactive support through the execution phase. If you're successful in that 6-month acceleration period, we're on hand. We can have meetings with you. We'll support you if there's any problems to the best of our ability, etc. And finally, the strong EIT digital brand, like as I said at the start, is a strong validator for your technology within the European market and will assist in market access across the EU. Put very simply, having that EIT digital badge somewhere within your organisation's history will help you to progress, or is likely to help you progress. It really is a strong validator for your innovation. Moving on to the cutoff timetable, I think yes. So you'll find all this on the website, but ultimately, and working backwards, you're looking at cutoff. The final cutoff is the 13th of November. That will be at 5 o'clock Central European Time, 4 o'clock GMT. And that 5 o'clock cutoff is a hard stop. So do not, we really suggest that if you're going to make an application, that you do it well before that. The selection period, as you can see there, then is going to run between the 14th of November to the 8th of December, which means that you will know well before or right between the 8th and maybe a week after that or so, you'll know whether or not you've been successful. You can start the process of getting ready for that, and the start date for your activity will be on the 1st of January, and that will run for 6 months. Next steps, if this is of interest to you and you're looking to get involved, we very much want you to participate. If you're not sure if this is for you, then we really suggest that you just get in touch with us anyway. We can talk you through the process. We can help you to decide whether or not this is really for you. It's very straightforward to get started. You'll see the link on the page there, and we will also send you this link. This is going to take you to a form which will ask you to prepare a short proposal preview about you and your innovation. This is a very informal document. It's not official in any way, but what we're doing is we're just going to get some basic information about who you are and your innovation to help us to really start a conversation with you. We're really looking for that to be submitted by Monday the 2nd of October. And assuming that you meet the basic criteria, which we've already talked about earlier on in this presentation, we'll then invite you to an online proposal workshop on the 11th of October, which will be specifically about supporting you through the Open Innovation Factory. This form really just takes a really short time to complete. So if you can get it done this week, even today, then I really recommend it. Get it done, get it out of the way, and then we'll take it from there. As I said, the final window for application is the 13th of November at 5 p.m. Central European Time, 4 o'clock UK time. And I think that's my last slide. So that's all the practical information that you need to get started. Ultimately, put in this short proposal preview form, have a really good look at the call documents, make sure that the programme is for you. And now what I'm going to do is to hand over to Ben to introduce you to the next stage of funding for growing deep tech companies. So we're looking at the commercialisation phase. Ben's going to take you to the next stage and as you grow your company past the commercialisation point to really building the strength of the company. Over to you, Ben.
Okay, thanks, Martin.
Over to
I'll
you,
just say a few words before Ben jumps in. So hopefully that has brought the Innovation Factory into full focus for you at a practical level. As I said at the beginning, this is a live opportunity. So if you're in the hunt for funding at this level, so up to 400,000 euros, in order to propel intensified revenue development and customer growth through the first half of 2024, then we'd like to hear from you very rapidly. Use that QR code. We'll also send the link to you this afternoon on an email. The form itself is non-bureaucratic. It's just to give us a reasonably clear understanding of your business, where your product is focused, and to work out how we can help you. So get in touch quickly. That's a live opportunity. We want to get started with you straight away to discuss your plans. So that was the factory, and now we're going to change gear and we're going to look at the Access to Finance program. This is the venture capital based program, which is aimed at scale-ups, which are using additional funding for growth, often international growth. Typically, the fundraising range is 5 to 25 million euros, as we mentioned. So here, let me bring Ben McClure in, and Ben will explain exactly how this one works to you. Ben, over to you.
Thank you, Morgan. Thanks, Morgan. And Martin, thanks for the super primer on the Innovation Factory for startups. I learned a lot. It was really good. So I'm going to take over now and talk about fundraising for more mature digital tech businesses, those at or around the Series A financing stage. Good morning, everybody. I'm calling in from cloudy, cool London this morning. I'm Ben McClure. I'm London-based venture capital fundraiser for EIT Digital's Access to Finance team. Just a few words to start. The stakes are really high for European tech businesses these days, looking to raise venture capital. Investors are increasingly selective about the opportunities that they're choosing to back. And venture capital rounds are taking longer, and they're much more demanding on founders. Venture capital fundraising is a big job, but founders don't need to do it alone. Next slide, please. So EIT Digital's Pan-European Venture Finance team is here to help digital tech businesses and their founders and their CEOs achieve fundraising success. We're trusted. Each of us have decades of experience as founders, investors, advisors. We're focused on fundraisings of, roughly between 5 to 25 million euros or pounds, and that's really focusing on the pre-Series A late stage, Series A, and to some extent Series B financing rounds. We help founders and CEOs prepare for investors. We bring structure and efficiency to fundraising campaigns. We bring to the table the right investors from our really big network from across Europe and around the world. And ultimately, we work hard to make venture capital fundraising a success for the companies that we're supporting. Next slide, please. We've got a really terrific track record of success. We're really proud to have helped tech companies from a range of sectors from across Europe raise money between 5 to 25 million. Climate tech, clean tech, health tech, robotics, fintech, cybersecurity, mobility. We've done a number of deals in a wide range of digital tech spaces. The deals often involve us bringing multiple investors to the table. Typically, very often they represent a mix of traditional venture capital funds, corporate investors, and even other types of venture stage investors or alternative investors from across Europe. And from time to time, we bring in investors from North America and Asia. We're really proud of our fundraising success record, and the list of successful deals that we're doing continues to grow. Next slide, please. So we're clearly doing something right. We've had a really busy summer getting deals done. Here are a couple of the deals that we've done this summer. The first one is Matiga Solutions. We're really pleased to have helped Barcelona-based Matiga secure, north of 13 million euros in venture capital funding. Matiga is a very exciting business. It brings together high-performance computing and artificial intelligence creating a software that predicts climate-driven risk. It's looking at things like wildfires, extreme weather events, and even volcanoes. And the software, what it does, it gives insurers, real estate owners, banks, infrastructure owners, energy companies a really powerful risk management tool. And we did a great deal for them. We engaged with the right investors, and we created a really competitive investor deal environment that was crucial to making this fundraising a great success. We helped Natiga get an investment from Spanish and Portuguese venture capital funds, Kibo Ventures and Faber Ventures. We helped to bring in Microsoft's Climate Innovation Fund. And I think probably most interestingly, we were able to bring in the corporate venture arm of the US-based global insurer Nationwide into the deal mix as well. The deal was oversubscribed, which was great. Natiga received more investment offers and term sheets that could possibly be accepted. So the investors had to compete for a spot in the round. The CEO, Alex Marti, was super happy. The valuation and the amount raised was significantly more than he had originally planned. So it was a really nice, successful deal. Another deal we did this summer was Sensenio, based in Bratislava, so Slovakia, so kind of the other side of Europe. Sensenio is building a world-class enterprise-grade SaaS solution for cities to manage waste. It allows for end-to-end waste life cycles, traceability of waste, and really, it's, kind of helping to bring about more in this circular economy. So it's a really exciting SaaS business. The raise was 6.2 million euros, and that money is going to give the company lots of fuel for further innovation in the software, and to penetrate more global markets going forward. The funding was secured from Venture to Future Fund in Slovakia, a local anchor investor, and from the EU's European Innovation Council Fund. But what's more, Sensenio is really an emerging leader in clean tech, and as a consequence, we were able to attract really best fit investors from places beyond Europe. We brought in Taiwania Capital, which is a global clean tech industry 4.0 specialist investor based in Taiwan. Taiwania led the round, and this investor is going to bring a really powerful global reach and resources to Sensenio. So we're really delighted by the deal. And we have more deals coming through, so we'll be making some more announcements in the coming weeks that we're really excited about as well. Next slide, please. So even as our team is successfully doing deals, there is unfortunately a bit of a sense of gloom in the market, and I don't think this will be any surprise to anybody. When we first meet founders, typically when we meet them for the first time, they're often telling us about their worries about the marketplace, about the downturn in the amount of deals being done. Some of them even pull up charts like the one I've got in front of you. There's definitely been a downturn in venture capital deal activity. Founders are anxious. All kinds of forces are playing into the downturn in the market in the last year or so. There's been a war in Ukraine. There's kind of lousy IPO markets for tech companies trying to exit. Interest rates, inflation, all these things are taking their toll on deal activity. It's putting pressure on venture capital fund managers who are getting, they're more selective, and as a consequence, the bar to getting venture capital investment is rising. But I think it's important that you look at this, this kind of phenomena with a kind of a longer term view. If you look at the chart, you can kind of see that really what we're seeing is, in fact, more like a reset to the longer term trend. It's really, we're seeing like a more of a return to normal. It's not an existential collapse in the venture capital market by any means. It's unlikely we're going to see the kind of the frothy, flurry deal activity of 2021 or 22, but I think we're seeing more of a return to normal. If you just consider this, if deal activity at its current pace, which is below what we saw a year or two ago, if it continues as it's currently going, 2023 deal activity is really going to be 25 to 30% more than what we saw in 2020 or 2019. So despite the difference this year from what we saw last year and the year before, it's actually quite a buoyant venture capital market environment. Next slide, please. So, and as our team's fundraising success over the last year can attest, and especially this summer, August was a really good month for fundraising. We're starting to get some data on the deal flow post Q2 this year, and August was great. Deals were up across Europe by 40% from July and August, and they're even up 35% from last year. So I think we're seeing a turn in the market, and things are going pretty well, particularly for companies that are well prepared and running well executed fundraising campaigns. They are successfully securing venture capital investment, and our experience can attest that. And what's more, early stage valuations are really showing resilience. Businesses with strong investment propositions are continuing to grow their valuations. And again, as the deals that we've done recently show, this is the case. Next slide, please. Our team talks to investors almost every day. We know that there's an appetite in the market for late seed stage and Series A opportunities. This stage of financing is really in the spotlight. How do I explain this? Companies at this stage are at the point where they're really starting to show good, solid, reliable signs of promise. Late seed, Series A really is the point where business models are proving themselves, and this gives investors reason to be confident that these companies have what it takes for continued growth into the future. So investors are taking a closer look at companies at roughly the Series A round. At the same time, investors recognize that companies at or around Series stage have quite a good timeline to achieve a desirable exit. Normally it's 5+ years before they're looking to do a trade sale or do an IPO, and that gives the investors a longer time horizon to see through, the currently uncertain marketplace and really see the long-term promise and return of the business. So it's more investors are reaching out to us in search of strong late seed and Series A investment opportunities. Next slide, please. Nevertheless, as always, investors are selective, to put it lightly. They're increasingly demanding of the companies that they're looking at. Despite the name, venture capital investors are rarely that adventurous. Their tolerance for risk is low. It always has been, and it continues to be low. They're really demanding clear, concise, and compelling opportunities that they can understand, that are easy to get a grasp of. So that's important for founders to recognize. The stories need to be clear, sharp, concise. Founders are facing ever greater, more rigorous assessments and due diligence from the investors. The venture capital rounds are taking longer. These days, a venture capital fundraising round is, a good 9 to 12 months from start to finish, and the rounds are taking much more work from founders to get done. Investors are using more powerful evaluation and due diligence tools. They're automating assessments sometimes, and they're able to analyze, using things like machine learning and artificial intelligence. They're able to quickly analyze startups right down to, quite a remarkable level of detail using databases and social media and the web. So in a nutshell, founders and CEOs that aren't prepared for the demand of investors for when they're looking to raise money, they can find fundraisings rather grueling and stressful. So it's the job of our team is to get our companies ready for investors, to help the founders build and gain and build confidence about the fundraising going ahead, and we support them through the entire fundraising to get them to success. Next slide, please. So what's the formula for success in today's fundraising market? 4 simple points. Founders have to have a compelling proposition that resonates with investors. They need to be talking to the right investors. It's critical that fundraisings are done in a structured, efficient way. They're more time consuming, but if it's done in a random, unstructured way, it can take even longer than 12 months. And finally, it's really important that founders keep growing the business while they're doing their fundraisings. And I'll go through these in detail. Next slide, please. So compelling proposition. Key to fundraising success is a compelling proposition that really hits the mark with investors. Founders, dare I say, they rarely get a second chance when it comes to meeting, gaining the interest of investors. To do it once, do it right. We work really hard to make sure that the founders are delivering the best possible impression and gaining the investors' conviction right away. We work with founders to ensure that they are able to present a story with messaging that engages with investors and keeps their attention and keeps that that excitement and momentum going. So here on the slide, I've listed some of the things that we spend we dedicate time trying to articulate and communicate clearly to investors. It's important that we show the power of the market opportunity, why your company has got a unique opportunity in the market. We want to show the power of the team, why you've got a great, insightful team that understands that market and is doing something differently and understands it in a way that's sets them apart from the competition. And that competitive position is really important. We need to show investors that you have some kind of competitive protection or a moat around your business that can keep you ahead of the competition and protect you. Capital efficiency is becoming much more a high point for investors. They want to know that past investments that you've received, you've used that money well, you've invested it well, and you've built value out of it. And you've got a business model that it may not be cash generative or profitable today, but it will be in the not too distant future. And that's all going to come in a detailed business model, i.e. spreadsheets, that spell out the business model and the opportunity really clearly and logically. Really careful consideration needs to go into the amount asked in the fundraising. Does it make sense? If it doesn't make sense, it can quickly put off investors and they may not want to have a meeting with you. So the fundraising ask is really important. And importantly, the proposition needs to be aligned with the investors that are in the marketplace. It needs to be aligned with strategies and the focus of the investors that you're meeting. So on that point, next slide, please. It's critical that you need to be talking to the right investors during fundraisings. Founders really try not to spend time talking to the wrong investors. The trick is to find the investors that are going to really buy into the vision of the business. They're going to appreciate the insight of the founders and the direction that the founders have found to build the business and grow the business. So it's our job is to make sure that you are meeting with the right investors, smart investors that will appreciate your venture's promise and understand the full value of it in a way that you've communicated, and we can certainly help you communicate the value of the business. That important meeting of minds, important match between founders, startup, and investors is really critical to increasing the odds of success of getting valuation that's expected, and ultimately getting a fundraising success. Investors are not always easy to reach. I've got a picture of an iceberg here. Think of the investment market as if it were an iceberg made up of lots and lots of investors, and there are many of them in Europe. Now there are thousands of them investing at venture stage. Sitting above the surface in plain sight are Europe's big name brand investors. Their names. They're the biggest and best well-known funds, venture capital funds. They're fairly easy to find, but they're not necessarily easy to access or to get in touch with or to meet. We know them. We're in contact with them on a regular basis, and we can help you get in front of them, if these are appropriate investors. But then at the same time, sitting below the surface, hidden is a much bigger part of the iceberg. There's a huge chunk of investors, literally thousands of them, that spend less time promoting themselves, but are quietly, diligently making investments here in Europe. These can be specialist investors with particular kind of industry focus, or even a business model focus or a stage of development focus, corporate investors, super angels, family offices, private equity funds. Yeah, private equity funds. They normally, private equity funds don't normally invest in venture stage, but many of them are doing more venture stage investments. Asset managers, again, not traditional venture capital investors, but many of them are seizing opportunities at an earlier stage, at venture stage, even hedge funds. Many of the investors that are putting money into European companies are not based in Europe. So our job is to get to know VC and venture investors based outside of Europe. We make it our business to know all of Europe's venture capital investors, and importantly, all the lesser known ones that can bring a lot to fundraising. We know their tastes and preferences, so we're able to bring the right investors to the table for the companies that we support. Next slide, please. Fundraising is a big full-time job. And the good news is we know how to deliver a staged, structured fundraising campaign that generates competition amongst investors and really improves the efficiency of the campaign and improves the odds of success. There's a whole lot of work to be done during a fundraising campaign. There's strategy and preparation work that's needed up front. We need time to get the messaging right, getting the proposition right, coaching and preparing the founders for going out to meeting investors. There's outreach to investors. In a typical campaign, we start with about 100 investors that we reach. We then get meetings. We then line up meetings with those investors. It doesn't always come initially. There's follow-up work that needs to be done to pique their interest, update them on what the business is doing, and get the critical meetings with the right investors for the founders that we're supporting. Again, once you've had meetings, you need follow-ups. You think investors might have disappeared. They haven't. They're just busy. So you need to follow up, keep chasing them. There's a assessment and due diligence period. Responses need to be coming back quickly in a timely manner from the founders. We can help you do that. There's term sheet reviews that we can help do as well. Everything needs to be done promptly and professionally. And then there's this whole process of building up a syndicate of investors, trying to get the investors to work together. We have experience doing that. There's a whole bunch of work that needs to be done during a fundraising campaign, and all at the same time, the founders and the C-suite, they really need to be staying focused on the daily job of building and growing the business. Which brings us to the next slide. So founders, you need not do it alone, the fundraising campaign. Let us help you keep growing your business. Fundraising can be a really big distraction. It can keep founders from doing the really important work of growing their businesses. So if there's one message that you leave with today, stay focused on growing sales. It should be your number one activity. During the fundraising campaign, the investors that you're engaging with are going to be looking at sales growth. They're going to be looking at your growth in POCs, the number of users that you're engaging with, customers that you're engaging with, the number of partnerships you have, how big is your pipeline of potential customers growing. This is what they're looking at. So prioritize this now, and even keep it a priority during the fundraising. Because it's going to be it's very, very helpful for the fundraising to get the investors' interest and keep that momentum going during the fundraising. And don't forget, every euro or pound in sales that you're able to generate for the business translates into more business value for your business. So fundraising is a full-time job. So we're here to help shoulder the burden of fundraising activities and keep you focused on growth. Next slide, please. So just a few words to end. Fundraising is hard work. It's taking longer. These days, the stakes are higher than ever for tech founders and CEOs seeking new investment. So we're here to help. Let the EIT Digital team, we can bring our network, our knowledge, our experience to your fundraising. We'd love to help you make it a great success. Thank you very much. I hope that there will be a lot of founders and CEOs in the audience who would like to learn more. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. One of the ways we've got a method for engagement. There's a QR code here that you can use to pull up a link to our engagement site. So please do. I would love to have a conversation with you to find out more about your fundraising goals and explore ways that the EIT Digital Access to Finance team can help. Many thanks.
That's great. Thanks very much, Ben. I hope that has brought the Access to Finance program into sharp focus for you. The private fundraising landscape has always been quite complicated and nuanced, as I think everybody knows, and quite often a lot really does depend on warm introductions. And in the current period, investment decision makers are being far more selective, as Ben said. And the good news is that they're far more rational than ever before. That means that they're far less likely than in the frothy periods to shoot from the hip and take a chance. But this means that there is also an opportunity for you to succeed by yourself taking a rifle shot approach. It is, of course, true that you can waste a lot of time and a lot of money if you don't know your way around the venture capital world, or you can de-risk your approach by working with a trusted partner with a good track record. So if you're at this stage, if you're looking for fundraising broadly in the 5 to 25 million range in 2024, we're here now, we're ready to work with you to do that successfully and efficiently. So we've had a lot of questions coming through on the chat, and I'm just looking. I can see that we've answered some of them, but not all of them. So we'll move into the Q&A session now. Tessa will tee up the questions. She'll direct them at one of us, and we'll try to clear all of them in the time that we have. We have 5 or 10 minutes to cover this part. So Tessa, let me bring you in here.
Thank you, Morgan. Yes, we've had some great questions come in. Please do continue to drop your questions into the chat, and we will try and get through as many as we can in the time that we have. If we do not get to your question, please feel free to get in touch with us after the workshop. After the Q&A session, Morgan will let you know how to get in touch with the team. So first question, will we receive the recording or the presentation afterwards? I will take this. Yes, of course, you will receive the presentation, and we will share the recording with you within the next week. A lot of questions came in regarding the UK and the association to Horizon Europe. Morgan, can I hand this one over to you, please?
Yes, of course, Tessa. So I'm guessing that the question is, are UK parties able to access Horizon Europe programs and to be funding beneficiaries from January 2024? I think everybody saw and welcomed the joint announcement from the EC and the UK on the 7th of September, which confirmed that finally the UK will fully associate to Horizon Europe from the 1st of January and from the Horizon Europe Work Programme 2024. And this opens the door immediately for UK organisations to become financial beneficiaries in a wide range of Horizon Europe funding programmes. In respect to the EIT programs, it's slightly more nuanced. The EIT programs actually predate the Horizon Europe Work Programme 2024, which means that the participants in the EIT programs, including our own Innovation Factory, won't immediately be able to become financial beneficiaries through Horizon Europe. What this means instead is that there is a different funding path available for UK parties immediately from January 2024, which is through the UK government guarantee, which has been extended in order to dovetail with the commencement of funding through Horizon Europe for UK organisations. So in simple terms, If you're in the UK, if you like the look of the Open Innovation Factory programme, if it seems to fit well with your plans, we encourage you to move forward, as everybody else will move forward, and to send us a proposal preview form this afternoon or in the coming couple of days. And we will support you in the usual way, as though you were eligible for EU funding from January. But in practice, if your proposal is successful, if it's selected by us, then the funding route will be through the UK government guarantee rather than through Horizon Europe. The UK guarantee does work very well. We currently have 14 UK companies which are being processed through the UK guarantee with our support. And these are companies that submitted innovation proposals to us earlier in 2023 in the first cutoff, or indeed in 2022. So we've got 14 UK companies which are being processed in that way. And we will be delighted to support you if you want to move forward through this cutoff in mid-November. And as I said, the difference will be that your funding comes through a different route. So I hope that makes everything clear. If you're a scale-up, if you're interested in access to finance, then none of this applies to you. You just work with us in the normal way.
Thank you very
Tessa,
much.
Back to you.
Thank you very much, Morgan. Martin, the next question is about the incorporation dates. Is the incorporation of the 1st of January 2019 a condition? What happens to companies prior to that? Is funding open to companies older than 7 years? Can you?
Thanks. Yes, so 1st of January is one of the eligibility criteria. If your organisation is just a little bit out of that cutoff, then contact us, send us an email. We can have a discussion and figure out if there's anything that can be done. But for the vast majority of organisations, I would suggest that the 1st of January is a hard limit. A company that's 7 years old would be too old for this programme, absolutely.
Then in the same light, sorry, Martin, in the same kind of vein, can the new venture be incorporated after the proposal submission or award?
No, the organisation has to be incorporated before the cut-off date, so before the 13th of November.
Perfect, thank you very much. So, Martin, I'm going to hand over to you again. We are building a digital banking solution initially for the US market, then globally. They are based and operating out of Dublin. Do we work with companies that have a US or global focus?
If you have a customer in the US, that's absolutely fine, but you'll still need an EU consortium partner to make an eligible application.
Perfect. Morgan, if I can send the next question to you. Can other grants be used as co-funding in the Open Innovation Factory call?
Yeah, of course. Just to loop back to that prior question, actually, it's just jogged my memory. The most successful proposal in the previous cutoff in spring of this year was indeed an Irish company, and the lead customer is in North America. So that's absolutely fine. As Martin said, you just partner with another EU or associated country party to make your proposal. And for us, it's absolutely fantastic that you're already engaged with a lead customer in North America. So it just jogged my memory. We had one exactly like the case that was just mentioned, and that was the top scoring proposal in the evaluation. Yeah, so concerning funding to support and validate Innovation Factory proposal, the answer is yes. Yes, we are delighted to see prior funding from the national funding programme. So I can see that the Swedish one was mentioned in one question. And then the UK national funding programme was also mentioned. So the answer is yes. In our mind, in our evaluation, that is equivalent to private investment. Obviously, what we're looking for here is prior validation, either through private money or through public funding.
Thank you very much, Morgan. So back to you, Martin. If we don't submit the first form that you mentioned by the deadline date, I think that's the proposal preview form, will we still be eligible to apply by the 13th of November?
So yes, so this is an open call. What we're offering is additional support from the EIT Digital team that we have here to help you in the process of making the application. You're absolutely welcome to not participate in the support that we're offering and submit independently. As I say, it's a public and an open call, but we do recommend, if you can, to get the that proposal summary in. It's really short, and historically, organisations that have used our support mechanisms have done better through the assessment stage. But yeah, if you don't get in by that date, then yes, you can still apply. There's no problem, but you have to apply by the 13th of November.
Perfect, thanks. Morgan, I'm going to hand another one to you. Was the funding a grant or equity funding?
For the factory, it's grant funding, in respect of which there is an equity consideration for the ecosystem services which EIT Digital provides. So this is the broad ecosystem which Victoria described, and an element of the ecosystem services is indeed the funding. So technically it's a grant, and there is an equity consideration associated with the whole package of services.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Morgan. Victoria, if I can bring you into the conversation now. What about potential consortium members from Switzerland?
So startups from Switzerland that want to receive our funding, they can apply. There's also, we have a workshop on 19th of October. Please reach out to me if you want to receive more information on that. For consortium partners, they need to be incorporated in a EU member state. So consortium partners cannot be in Switzerland currently, but all startups from Switzerland can apply for the Open Innovation Factory.
Thanks very much, Victoria. Ben, I'm going to hand over to you for the access to finance.
Yes.
What is the cost for this?
Okay.
And how does the engagement with EIT Digital on this work for a startup?
Well, I think that the best way to engage is just to have an initial conversation. I think we just need to find out more about each other and find out if there's a fit. So if there's anybody out in the audience that is, was interested or intrigued by what I had to say, please click on the QR code, and there's a few questions. It'll take you 30 seconds to fill it out, and it'll just be very helpful for us. Or you can send me an email, but use the QR code, it'll be better. But an initial 10, 15, 20-minute conversation is the best way to start, and then we can see if we've got something, a reason to work together. Now on the pricing, we really, pricing is a discussion for, once we get to know the company, we understand its needs, its problems, the amount of work that's required. So I won't go into details around pricing, but while we receive support from Horizon Europe, we are advised to charge fees for the valuable support that our team provides to digital tech ventures with fundraisings. We ask for a reasonable base fee or a retainer, and at the same time, we ask for a very reasonable success fee, and that's based on a scale, depending on how much money is raised. And we do offer pricing options that accommodate founders' needs. As a nonprofit, I think this is important to know, is as a nonprofit, EIT Digital and our team, we can provide really, professional grade services, experienced team, gray hairs, 20, 25 years experience with fundraisings, venture capital investments. We're able to offer those because we're a nonprofit, at a discount to similar services offered by boutique advisory firms and even investment banks. We deliver a structured competitive fundraising process for the companies that we're working for. We work in hand with CEOs to prepare them for roadshows with investors. We're bringing in the right investors for them. Our team is shouldering the burden of a lot of the fundraising work, and we're allowing CEOs not only to increase the odds of the success for their fundraising, but we're giving them time to keep growing the business. So we bring a lot of value. We do charge a fee, and I'd be more than happy to discuss the fee, at an initial meeting. Hopefully that helps.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Ben. Well, I think that is all we have time for today. Thank you, everybody, for your great questions. As mentioned, we were not able to get, if we were not able to get to your question today, please feel free to get in touch with us. Morgan will now share our contact details with you along with the next steps. Thanks, Morgan.
Okay, thanks so much, Tessa. So next steps wise, it's very simple, really. We've shown you the QR codes. I'll just leave them there for a moment so that you can grab them if you need to. Open Innovation Factory. This is a live opportunity, so jump on that one quickly if you're at that stage of development. Access to finance, we're ready to go with you immediately as well. So just contact us that way. And we'll go straight into a private discussion with you. We have some events coming up. These are very straightforward events hosted by the West region. If you're on the Innovation Factory track, there are two important dates for you to note down straight away. On the 11th of October, we're hosting an Innovation Factory proposal workshop. This is where we really show you in a nuts and bolts way how to build up a strong proposal for the Innovation Factory. So to jump you into that one, we just need to receive the proposal preview form from you. That's where you go when you use the QR code. And then on the 26th of October, there's another workshop. This is just focused on the budgetary aspects of building a great Innovation Factory proposal. And then in early December, we have a showcase event where we showcase the best of the best startup companies and technologies and scale-up companies and technologies from right across the Western Europe region. You will receive invitations to that one in due course. So just finally, these are contact details. So if you have a complete aversion to using forms, don't worry at all. You can just email us and we'll jump straight into conversation with you that way. You've got Victoria there. You've got Tessa there twice, actually. That's a little strange. But if you're in the UK or Ireland or Benelux and even Scotland, just contact Tessa and she will handle you very well. If you're scale up and if it's venture capital and access to finance, then it's Ben, of course, and those are Ben's details if you just want to email Ben rather than using the QR code route. So that's it from us. It's been great to have so many of you with us this morning. I really hope that we've been able to get across some information that is of immediate practical value to you. We know how challenging it is to move up the growth curve, whether you're at startup stage or scale up stage. We've got all of the experience, we've got all of the tools, and we've got all of the programs to help you. So just reach out and have a conversation with us if we're not already in discussion with you. So thanks so much. Have a great rest of the day, and we look forward to speaking to you very soon. Take care. Bye for now.